All right, here they come.
All right.
I expect that we should have somewhere. Oh, I'll keep my guess internal. I know how many teams it ends up going to, but we'll see how many actually end up taking it on.
I was at the Cal women's game yesterday in the torrential downpour, and they canceled the men's game.
Oh, they did.
Crazy.
Well, the men, because the Pac-12 only has 5 Pac-12 teams in San Diego State, they have room in their schedule to reschedule.
Right.
And the women, it's tight because they have 12 teams. So there's not, so they played, they had their senior day. It was mayhem.
That sounds like a lot of fun. We canceled.
I know we
everything
ended
at the
up
facility.
canceling. Our boys we were scheduled to host Santa Rosa here. So we actually canceled on Saturday because, having those parents drive,
Right.
the liability. I heard a team, our San Juan South, Keith Coleman's team,
Oh,
they went to Marin yesterday and he was trying to get the game canceled. So they drove all the way down there and they got to the fields. The referee goes, the fields are underwater.
Yeah.
We got to cancel.
yeah. The women's game, they were supposed to play at Edwards Stadium at Cal, and it was underwater. And so they pivoted and put it at the rugby field at the last minute. And San Diego State was already up here to play the men, but they just turned around and went home. That's huge cost factor when you're flying that many people,
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but Mother Nature.
Yeah. Nothing you can do.
Only so much. All right, we've got. I'm sure we'll have some more stragglers. We want to get moving, Z.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. All right, everybody. So this is our second of 3 college webinars that we are hosting for our membership. This should be 2007 age groups and older that were available for these videos, for these meetings. We'll post this one when it's done onto our YouTube as well as on the back end into Viga. So you all already have access to that in the college resource tab in the library. So if you're not utilizing that, go utilize that. If you can't get into it, message me and I'll help you. I'm going to turn it over to Zeka and mute myself while he introduces JT.
Appreciate it, Matt. Welcome everyone. So we're pretty excited today. JT and I go way back. I don't know how long ago, but we actually did a state team together back in the days, and I got to know her actually when she was at Cal with Kevin Boyd, and we went our separate ways. And not about a month ago or so, I noticed that JT was doing some work with the college recruiting piece. So I gave her a call, and we're super excited to have her here tonight. I think she'll be able to share a lot of good information as we're getting ready right now to go back into the college recruiting season, which would be in November and December for the boys and girls. So without further, go ahead, JT, take over.
All right. Thank you, Zeka. It's really good to see you too, after all those years. And to all of you at San Juan, your field space is amazing. So congratulations. That's a game changer. And I'm very jealous and drooling here in Berkeley about your field. So I'll start just a little introduction about myself. I played college soccer back in the 80s. I was a stopper. My position no longer exists in the game. So I am a true dinosaur. I am a relic of soccer, even on the women's side, which is kind of an amazing thing. I've been a high school teacher, coach, and athletic director in Hawaii and Lake Tahoe. I thought I should be in cool places if I wasn't going to make that much money. And then I became the Cal women's soccer coach, and I was the assistant coach, associate head coach, interim head coach for 11 seasons. And I basically got to go back to the scene of the crime and coach where I played, which was amazing. It was an amazing experience. But that said, in the most recent years, I had a child in a double overtime win against USC, and I started coaching boys, U6 boys. So I left Cal, and one day I was coaching 22-year-old women. The next day I was coaching 6-year-old boys. And I coached them all the way through U19 competitive club here in Berkeley with Mavericks. And all along, I became a college counselor in that process. So I've been working with student athletes and non-student athletes, just normal students, for the last pretty much 15, 20 years. So I have to say the hardest part of my whole thing was being a parent in the process. My son is currently playing college soccer, and I was his coach and his mom going through the process. And I can tell you, I never want to do that again. So parents, if you're listening to this, feel free to ask questions, because I know all sides of this process. I have no fingernails left. I have gray hair. So please use the Q&A if you have some questions. I will answer them as honestly and frankly as possible from all the different angles that I've been involved with this. Okay, so what I'm going to do, San Juan, is I'm going to kill your dreams. I'm going to take the next 2 slides and I'm going to tell you how hard this process is, how competitive it is, and that if you kind of don't have the capacity to do the little details of this, it may not be the process for you, because it is very challenging. And on the first end of this, I want you to know that not everyone gets a full ride. That's just the way it is. Okay. In the women's game at Cal, and I'm going to use Cal a lot because I was there and I know these are facts. On the women's side, there are 14 full ride scholarships that are shared amongst 38 players this year on the roster. 38 because of COVID. And we'll talk about that a little bit at the end. On the men's side, which is tragic, there's only 7 full rides, and that's shared amongst 26 players. So not everyone's getting a full ride in soccer, and that's just the way it is. And as you can see, the odds of landing a college scholarship in many major sports are lower than the chances of being admitted to Harvard, Yale, Princeton, or Stanford. And I can tell you right now, that's under 5%. Okay, so I'm killing your dreams right now while you're looking at really cute pictures of my former players. I'm going to kill your dreams. Okay, but I'll build you back up, so don't worry about that. Okay, so not only is it hard to get a scholarship, it's just hard to get to play in college. So the NCAA has these stats coming out every year, and this is 2019. As you can see, women's soccer players, 7.2% will go from high school soccer. They don't have stats for club with the NCAA, just high school, to the NCAA, either in Division 1, 2, or 3. 7.2% of all high school players, right? That's how competitive. On the guys' side, again, I'm sorry, guys, you're 5.6. And the reason is there aren't that many programs, especially on the West Coast, for you to play at. There's more women's programs in the country. Now, I just throw this little fact in. If you really want to play sports and you don't care which one, start skating if you're a girl, because 26.2% of women's ice hockey players will play in college. And that's just because there's not that many programs and they all skate in the regions that they have those programs. Okay. So it's hard to get a scholarship and it's hard to even get a roster spot. Now, that said, college soccer in 1980s, which is nothing like it is now, was the best 4 years of my life. Okay. I have never put 4 consecutive years together that looked like that. And I know I wouldn't survive another 4 years of college soccer at this point in my life, but it is amazing. Okay. So if you can find your right fit, if you can find the place to play, it's going to be amazing. It's just going to be like club soccer on steroids, right? You're going to be with these people for 4 years, eating, drinking, traveling, lifting, everything together. Okay. 24/7. And I pulled this off your website. Sorry, Matt and Zek, I didn't ask, but it was so awesome. Your 2021 commits on the girls' side, and I don't know if this is a complete list or not. The thing that caught my eye is they're from all different areas. You have Division 1, you have Division 2, you have Division 3, and you have junior college. Brilliant. That's what you need to do. Because this process is so hard, you need to open up your lists, open up your eyes to different schools if soccer is your main priority, and reach out to coaches at all of those schools, okay? So I'm telling you, it's worth it. All this work I'm going to tell you about is worth it if you find your right fit. And I want to congratulate all these young women for getting there, especially after the years that we've had when it's been very hard to play and get video out in California when other states have been playing. So congratulations to this whole group. Okay, so what's my best athletic fit? And we just talked about this, right? There's a lot of different places to play. And on that list of young women that were just there, You had people at the NC2A in all three divisions and at the junior college division. What you guys didn't have, there wasn't an NAIA player there, which we'll talk about. And we don't know the club college statistics. I'm sure there's a bunch of players from San Juan that are playing club soccer for their college. Off my U19 boys teams, 2 years of them, I had 5 go D1, 2 go D2, 8 go D3, and the biggest number are playing club soccer at their colleges. So don't discount anything when you're starting this process. Have an open mind and a broad view of where to go if soccer is your main priority. Okay. Now, to do that, you're going to have to know what, and briefly, I'm going to tell you what the different divisions entail, because they are not similar to each other. So I want you to know, if you are looking at Division I colleges, okay, which a couple of those girls were going to, this is what I call the bling. It's the bling. It's what you see mostly on TV or on the Pac-12 network, okay? It is the bling. It's high visibility. And when I say bling, it's like, yeah, you're going to get the most gear at Division I. You can see I'm still wearing my Cal gear. I have closets full of it because I love it so much. But you're going to get the gear. Not only the gear, they're going to have trainers and strength coaches. They're going to have psychologists and doctors and PTs and nutritionists. They're going to have everything you need: massage tables, hot tubs, juice bars, all that stuff at the top Division I programs. That's what they're going to have because it's there for the football team. And now we get access to it in soccer, which is fantastic. You'll be on television the most, okay? And for all of this, what you will have to do is you will have to sacrifice being a normal college student, okay? You might not get to major in the major you want to major in. A lot of engineering majors have a tough time being a Division I athlete. Nursing is hard. Architecture is hard. The coach will guide you in that area, and you may not be able to major in something that you want to. You're not going to be able to study abroad. You're not going to go to Mexico. You're not going to go to South America and learn a language and go to school there. You're going to have to stay on campus all the time. Summer, you will be near campus because there will be captain's practices. Okay, there will be camps that you have to do. You are sacrificing, and it's a huge, huge, huge commitment. Now, do people love this commitment? Yes, they do. Did I? Hard to say because it wasn't as crazy back in the 80s. So it's just much harder. So there's a lot of hours. You're going to probably, the NCAA allows coaches to have you for 20 hours a week. That's not right. It's usually 30, 35. They just don't document it all. And there's a lot of different levels of Division I. Everybody thinks of the big Power 5 conferences, which are there, the Pac-12, the ACC, SEC, Big 10, Big 12, like the big football programs. But there's a USF, there's a WCC, there's UC Santa Barbara, there's Cal Poly, there's all sorts at St. Mary's College in Moraga. There's tons of different types of D1 programs. So what I tell people who are even just set on D1 is to look broadly at Division I, okay? Broadly, broadly, broadly. Now, remember, there are scholarships for Division I. So it's a big deal and it's a big commitment, but coaches kind of own you when you play that, okay? So you can take a look at that. And what I would like you to do is, if you're interested in Division I, is check out the rosters. Go onto the roster, boys or girls, and figure out, where are these kids playing? What were their previous club teams? Were they in youth national programs? Okay. Were they out at these other programs? And how do you compare against them? Look at a roster and find out, how tall are the players? Some coaches like tall players. Washington State Cougars right now, half their women's side is 5'10" or taller. So guess how they play? Woo, straight up the middle, run and gun. These women are huge Amazons, and that's how they play. So if you're shorter, you may not want to put Washington State on your list because he really likes big players, and that's how he plays. So you can learn a lot from these rosters. Also, look up the coaches on the rosters, right? Look up how long they've been there. Look at where they've been. Look at their success. Look at how they coach. Get on their Instagram and see what they're posting, what kind of people they are, okay? So really do your research when you're looking at each level. Okay, so that's Division I. If you have questions, please put them in the chat so we can answer them at the end. And I want to know what I'm missing if I'm not telling you all these things. Okay, Division II. So there's Division I, the bling. Division II is the tweener. I call it the middle child. So for those of you that have 3 children in your family, it's the middle child. It's the one between the firstborn, bling, all of that stuff going on, and between the third child that everyone forgets about. Okay. So the middle child is in there. It's an intermediate level. Okay. So in terms of Division II, the tweener, there is scholarship money. And the easiest way to understand this is in football, which I know we don't talk about that much when we're soccer players, but it's easier to understand. In football, there are 85 full ride scholarships for Division I football. Okay. Full rides. They get them. You either get a full ride or nothing in football. For Division II, there are 35. So that's about the amount of money that's less in Division II. Okay. So the programs Division II may not have football. There will be fewer athletic programs. So let's say there are 20 different sports playing in Division I. There might only be 12 or 10 in Division II at your school. They may or may not have football. The schools will be a little bit smaller, but they still have national titles. They obviously, as you can see, celebrating here. Those are 2 of my favorite Division II programs, just because they're really fun schools, as you can kind of tell. But they have everything. It's just a little less of a commitment. Okay. It's a little bit less. They're not going to play as long of a season. They're not going to play as long in the spring season, but it is still a very, very big commitment. Okay. In terms of women's soccer, Division I has allowed 14 full ride scholarships. Division II is allowed 9.9 scholarships. Okay. So there's a little bit of difference in how the money is played out. The one thing that you do need to know is my actually first favorite D2 school was UC San Diego for years. But in 2020, they actually turned into a Division I program. So pay attention when you're researching schools so you know what division they're in. And remember, think broadly. Don't just think about Division II, think about D3 too, or NAIA schools, which we'll talk about in a minute. Okay, now Division III. Forget everything I just told you about Division I and II because they kind of couple together over here. D3 is over here on its own. Division III is known for its balance. And what I mean is balance. You are going to be a student who plays sport at Division III. D1, the bling schools, the Power 5 conferences, you're an athlete that goes to school. And sometimes people don't go to school that much in athletics in the D1. Okay. So this is balance. You're a student and an athlete. And it's balanced because the D3 sets up shorter seasons. You're not going to be flying across country for games until you get to the playoffs and the championships. You're going to be traveling on a bus because, as you can see by this NESCAC division in New England, the schools are relatively close together. So a lot of your travel is done by bus. So you're not going to miss as much school, which is why you can major in whatever you want at D3. That's part of their philosophy. It's known as the division with the best life-work balance, right? Work being school, life being soccer, right? So you are not going to miss a lab for a practice at Division III. Division I, you might not take that lab till the spring because you just can't fit it in your fall season. Okay, so it's a little bit different. I love Division III. I became a huge fan of it when I went through my college counseling program, because if you look at these D3 schools, they're some of the top schools in the country. These are not easy to get into. And if you're a soccer player, it will help you get into this school. Okay, all these schools, Middlebury, Williams, Wesleyan. I put some other examples down because I know this is in New England. They have a bunch of D3s in California, okay, Oxy, Pomona, Bitzer, Redlands, Chapman, Claremont McKenna, Whittier. They have them all over the country. And in fact, D3 has the most programs as opposed to D1 and D2, okay? So don't overlook Division III. I think they're smaller schools for the most part, smaller class sizes, and maybe even in some cases a better education because they're going to hold you accountable to being a student and an athlete. Okay. So this is the biggest division. So you got D1, you got D2, D3. Now, how do you know which schools are D1, D2, D3? If you have a phone right now, okay, if you have a phone with you, or you can put me in the corner of your computer, look up, and I want you to Google NCAA membership map. This is one website that everyone thinks I'm really smart because I know all the division levels. I just look them up on this like everyone else. So NCAA membership map, and then view the map, click on view the map, and then a whole map with all the sports in the country will come up. Okay. Obviously, we don't care about all the sports, so filter yourself based on men's soccer on the left-hand side, you can see, or women's soccer like I did below. Yeah, go do this now, and then you have to come back to me, because I get distracted when I go down this rabbit hole, because they have like women's rifle and programs I've never heard of, and I want to know what states they play in and what their things are. So come back after you get this, but take a look here, and I know you can't answer me right now, but what do you notice in comparison to the gender, right? There are over 1,000 women's programs, D1, D2, D3, and there are only 831 men, right? So that's a big deal. So it's a lot harder on the guy side. As you know, I just took guys through this process over the last few years. The other thing you may notice here is geographically, where are all the schools? Not on our coast, okay? So for those of you that want to stay in California, you're going to have to work harder and open up your list, because there just aren't as many schools as there are on the East Coast. Okay, but this is such a gem of a website to look at. So hopefully you're all on it right now and cruising around and seeing where they do sailing and all these other sports that you're interested in, I'm sure. Okay, so this is the way you research the NC2A. Okay, now NC2A is one association, and it houses D1, D2, D3. There is also something called the NAIA, and it is just another association. It parallels the NC2A, and it has schools that should not be overlooked. People forget about the NAIA, and they have scholarship money. Okay, so they have scholarship money. They're very similar to the tweener. They're similar to Division II. So if you're looking at it, their scholarship money, their eligibility requirements, and how they operate is similar to D2. Like UC Merced is a great example, okay? It's a UC, but it's an NAIA college that has both men's and women's soccer programs, and they are always looking for players, okay? There are some other schools in the NAIA that are a little bit more faith-based, and there are some private schools in there too, and some smaller schools. So it has kind of a hodgepodge of different types of schools. So you could just go to their website, and I'm not going to show you, but they have a membership map also. So you can go to the NAIA map, and you click on a state, and you can see what colleges in that state have NAIA programs. Okay, so that's how you research that one, but don't overlook them, because people do, and that's why there's more opportunity in NAIA than people think. Okay, and there's some great schools there too, as you can see. After that, on the other side, club soccer. Now, if you do not want to sacrifice your top college, like you want, let's say you want to go to a D1 college, but the D1 college doesn't necessarily want you as a soccer player. We're full, we already have a goalkeeper, you're not of our ability, we already have 100 midfielders, whatever the reason is, but you're like, no way, I still want to go to that college. Like, I've always wanted to go to Michigan. That's where I want to go. My parents went there, and that's where I want to go. It's okay. Apply to Michigan while you're still pursuing other programs. And if you get in, you can try out for their college club team. So if you decide to do that, after you commit to the school on May 1st, like a normal student does, you contact the club president, the club coach, and let them know you want to try out, and ask them for any information about tryouts. Okay. I have so many students all across the country, my former players, playing club soccer and enjoying the heck out of it. Okay. Because they didn't have to sacrifice their top school for soccer. So don't discount club either. And then finally, you had a couple gals that were going to community college, which is great. Let's say you're not ready. Your game might not be ready for where you want to play. You might not be ready academically. You screwed up your sophomore year, or had a terrible COVID year trying to learn on Zoom. Okay. Or maybe financially, it's not a good fit to go off to a D1 college yet. There are a ton of reasons to not go straight away to a 4-year college, whether it's D1, D2, D3, or NAIA. So hit the community college. And if you're going to do this, and you're going to get bigger, stronger, faster, and better, at the community college, they have rankings. So you can see on this, I obviously pulled up the women's soccer community college rankings in our area. Love it. Lake Tahoe is #1. Awesome, right? Go ski, go play soccer, get your 2 years of community college out of the way, and then transfer to a 4-year program. Okay. The one thing I'm going to ask that you do if you want to go to a community college is make sure that the community college coach has a really strong track record of getting their kids out from 2-year programs to 4-year programs. Okay. Because that's why you want to look at rankings. That's why you want to do the research on the websites, but they are all over. You could stay close to home, or you could travel, and you could go somewhere like Cuesta College by Cal Poly and play on their team. Okay. So there's a lot of different ways to do the community college, and it's there for you if you want it at the end of the process. Okay. So there's all the places you can play, right? And you could play intramurals if you want to, and everyone should do that anyways in college because you meet a lot of fun people. But how do I get recruited? This is why you are on this webinar, okay? So you have to know where. It has to be a good fit for you athletically, but how do I get seen by these coaches? How do I separate myself from the herd of all the thousands of people that are writing these college coaches? And what I'm going to tell you right now is that the process is different for blue chip and white chip athletes, okay? And you're probably thinking, what is a blue chip athlete? Well, for those of you that have been to Vegas and are over 21, a blue chip is worth about $10, and a white chip is worth about $1. Okay. So you want more of the blue chips at your table if you can stay there longer. Okay. So the process is very different for the two different chips. If you don't know who this picture is, you've been sitting under a rock in regards to women's soccer for the past 20 years. Megan Rapinoe, she was a blue chip soccer player in the process in high school. I tried to get her to come to Cal. She did not come to Cal. I was traumatized by the experience. She has a twin sister, but these are the blue chips athletes are in the driver's seat. They don't need this webinar I'm doing because they're 2% of all soccer players. They're getting looked at by everyone. When you go out to a field and you recruit them, it's like they're a unicorn, like they have a huge horn on their head and you can't stop looking at them, right? They're so good that you're like, oh. So they're highly valued. Coaches are going to make contact with them. They're going to interrupt their dinners. They're going to call, spam, email, Insta. They're going to do all that stuff to these players, trying to get them to commit. Most of the 2% are going to commit on June 15th after their sophomore year. Okay. That summer, that's when they're allowed to commit. And that's when they're first allowed to talk to college coaches for Division I and Division II. So they talk to some club coaches about this, but you will know if you fall in this category because you're probably already hearing from these schools somehow. And just so you know, Megan Rapinoe, I wanted her so badly at Cal. She had a twin sister. We couldn't afford both of them because they were both full ride players. And at Cal, we only had like 12 scholarships and we had to divide them up amongst everybody. So we couldn't give them enough money to make it reasonable for them. But I mean, she was from Reading, so not too far from all of us, Elk Grove Club. She was an All-American in high school, obviously, on the U19 national team. And tragically, she went to Portland to play for Clive Charles, who was a fantastic coach. She won a national title there. Obviously, she had her ups and downs with injuries like we all do, but got on the national team. And since then has just been money, right? On top of all of that, she's a social activist. She would have been perfect at Cal. She has pink hair. Berkeley would have loved her. So it's just traumatizing that she's not there. But remember, blue chip athletes, they just need to manage the process. Okay. They don't need a lot of help. The rest of us are the 98%, including myself, are white chips, okay? And white chips must market themselves. I'm going to say this, and I hate saying it every time, but it's a business. You have to work as hard on this marketing process as you do on your game, okay? And this should be happening starting freshman year. On the girls' side, freshman, sophomore year on the boys' side. You have to market yourself to coaches. So what can you do to do that? Keep your grades up. The higher your grades, the more options you will have, straight up. Some schools will just scratch you off their recruiting list if your grades are too low and they know you can't get in. Second thing, talk to your coaches. Let them know your goals. Ask your coaches for honest feedback. Whether they're your high school coach, they're your club coach, there's somebody in the club who you've trained with or a trainer, ask them, what's my best fit? Do you think I'm a D1 player? Or should I look at D2? Is D3 my thing? Like, where should I go? Should I spend 2 years in community college because I'm just going to get better, stronger, faster? Ask them so they know what you're doing. You can't just rely on your coaches to walk you through this process. Okay. You have to go to them and ask them, what do you think? Where should I play? How should I start my list? Okay. We're going to talk about social media. We're going to talk about resumes and profile, cover letters, highlight films, all these things on this list that you need to do. And the bottom line is you should have between 20 and 40 colleges programs on your list early on. Okay. Normal students, don't talk to them through this process. They're going to have 12 colleges on their list, but you need a bunch. What if they take that goalkeeper? Okay. What if they have 400 midfielders? You need to do this. You need to make contact and you need to do an email campaign with these coaches, sending all this stuff. You cannot just send one email. I get so many players who come to me and say, nobody wrote me back. And I'm like, well, how many times did you write them? Once. And I did it in the car on the way to the Surf Cup. And I'm like, what? Okay, that's not how it works, right? As a coach, we're getting thousands. On the women's side, you get like 1,000 emails before a tournament. If you're not getting those a week out, you're not going to get seen or read, okay? The guys' side, not quite as many, but so know this, don't just send one email, okay? Social media matters, and I'm sure you're going to just go wah, 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 listening to me for this, but kids are getting offers, players, not kids, sorry, I keep doing that now that I'm a mom. Players are getting offers rescinded because of posts on social media. They will, the offer and the commitment will be done, okay, because you've posted something bad or one of your friends has even posted something bad on yours, okay? So be careful about what photos you post, how you post, and instead of doing that, why don't you use it for good instead of evil? Post cool things. Congratulate a player on scoring a goal. Post a clip of yourself scoring the game-winning goal that you guys won the championship in the tournament, okay? Make it work for you and not against you, because 85% of college coaches will stalk you on social media when they become interested. 85%. The other 15% are really old and don't have social media. Okay, so just know, and they're going to stop coaching and retire soon. So it's going to be 100 soon. And it's a big, big, big deal. Okay. Humbly post your accomplishments and put it in a team context. I would also, of those 20 to 40 schools that you start with your list, I would follow and like everybody in the program. If you're going to Cal Lutheran, which a couple players are from this club, get on their Insta. What are they posting? What's their team culture like? And follow their program that way. So you are smart and you are knowledgeable when you have a conversation with that coach. So use it for good, not evil. Okay, you can listen to me again. I'm sure you're like, I've had that social media talk from every adult in my life right now. Okay. Second thing, know the recruiting rules. If you don't know them, you will get this whole presentation. Feel free to take a picture of this slide. The recruiting rules are confusing and they change all the time. So you have to be updating them. You're just looking at soccer, which they call other sports in the NCAA. So we are the other sports, which means we're not football and basketball, fortunately. So you can look at Division I and what you can receive. If you are a freshman or a sophomore and you are writing D1 coaches, they are not allowed to write you back or make any contact with you till June 15th after your sophomore year. Okay, so you need to know that going into it. D2 and D3 are different. They can make contact. D3, you can even go down on a visit and play with them if you're old enough. There's a lot of different rules. So help yourself out so you don't freak out by knowing what the recruiting rules are at the divisions you're looking for. Okay, so I have all players do this, and I don't know if your club has a profile or something that you already use. Mavericks did not. So what I had my players do is just create a soccer profile. You're going to need to post it on different websites. My whole approach and advice on posting stuff is if it's free, post it, right? Or if you have a platform that your club pays for, post it. Okay. If they are requiring you to pay money to post your stuff, stay away from it. Okay. Because you might get in and not know exactly what's happening and they'll just start taking money out of some account each month, kind of like they do for Peacock, which I finally signed up for. It's terrible. I'm on every platform now to watch soccer games and I'm just paying money every month, but can't help it. Anyways, okay.
Are you on
so-
Paramount Plus? Are you on Paramount Plus though, JT, to watch the Europa Leagues? Because I just signed up for that one. Don't go there.
I just jumped on my son's Paramount Plus account. So, and he's on my Disney Plus account. So I felt like that was a fair trade-off.
I think that's fair. Sorry for interrupting.
No, I appreciate that. I know that you're listening. I thank you on that. Yes, it's terrible. The Peacock, I finally bought it. Anyways, okay. This guy is not named Sammy Soccer. He is one of my former players. His name is Kalani. He's now playing at UW, and I am leaving on Wednesday to go up there to watch my son play against my captain. And I can't wait. I have a UW and Cal scarf that I wear for these games. You want to put your best foot forward. Okay. You obviously, if your GPA is not good, you don't need to include it in this. If it is good, include it. Okay. You put your height. It's so funny. He's 5'6" in this. He's about 5'8" right now. It says on the UW website, he's 5'10", which is hilarious. So put your best foot forward, put your club information down and your high school information down. You don't know where these coaches are going to find you. If you're playing PDP or ODP or anything on the outside, put that down, upcoming tournaments. And it's really important to ask your references if it's okay to list them, right? Because they might get a call from one of these coaches and they might want to know information about you. So ask your coaches. It's a great opportunity to go in and have a conversation with them about your goals for college and let them know what you're interested in. You can also use this for your college applications and you can post it on anything. So it's great to have a resume just so you know what you've done and you're tracking all your amazing accomplishments. If you're captain, obviously put that down if you've been a captain. If you do something that's related to soccer, like you do refereeing or you're an assistant coach in your clubs or you're working with the little players in your club, add that to your resume. So anything soccer related, put that down, okay? And don't forget, if you have questions, feel free to post them. Here's a sample cover email letter. Now, one caveat, you cannot use this verbatim because I have sent this out to thousands of different players across the country. So they don't want to hear this letter. This is just a sample template. And the important pieces of it are make it your own. Okay. This is what you would initially send out to a coach. It does not have to be this long. This is just all the things you could put in it. The subject line is vital. Okay. Name, grad year, team, topic. They don't care about your birth year. I know in club, we care about your birth year. College soccer coaches care about your graduation year, which is the year you graduate high school, is the same year you will start college. And that's the year that tells them what they can do with you based on NCAA recruiting rules. Email all the coaches. Don't just email one. I was an associate head coach at Cal, but guess who handled all the recruiting in the office? You know, Zeka, it was me. Okay, so make sure you email all the coaches. If you're a goalkeeper, add the goalkeeper coach on there if you can find their email, okay? Until one of them writes you back, and then maybe you're just in conversation with that person. The first paragraph is all about information. Remember your name, your grad year, your high school, your GPA, if it's good, right? Which level you want to play at, you know, anything. The second paragraph is really important because you need to make a personal connection with the coach. So maybe you know a player is going to play at Chico because I saw there's somebody from your club going to play at Chico. So if you're interested in Chico, say, hey, she was on the older team. She's a friend of mine. She's at Chico and she says you're a fantastic coach, right? Make a connection. Or you see on Instagram that they just beat their rival. Make that connection there, right? Or you look at their roster and you see they recruit a lot of people out of your area. Make that connection, okay? Congratulate them on big wins. Coaches will slow down the recruiting process, which is like what I was really happy about what the guy said at the beginning of this in the fall, because they're coaching their college team. They're not getting out much to watch you play. They can't, right? They are locked into their team. That's what they should be doing. But come November and December, everything starts happening again. Okay. So make sure you are laying the groundwork for the recruiting to be opening back up in November, December. If you are a sophomore or younger, you may want to put this third line in, this third paragraph, right? Because they're not allowed to contact you until after June 15th. So you know that, and you're telling them, I know you can't make contact, but I'm just letting you know I'm interested, okay? The last thing I'm going to tell you is ask your parents how to do a signature, a set signature on your email. It will save you hours and hours and hours. And you can do it on Gmail, Yahoo, anything. And you can put down your name, your grad year, your high school, your GPA, your club team, your position, your jersey number, and a link to your video, and it will go out on every email that you have. And remember, do not just send one email, okay? And we're going to talk about that because you should send your soccer video. So I'm assuming you guys are taking video of yourself playing. This is a way to tease the coaches into interest, okay? It's a tease. You're probably not going to get recruited to a school just based on your video, or just based on one ID camp, or just based on one tournament. They look at everything together, right? How all of that together is how coaches are going to determine if they want you on their team, okay? The soccer video is really important. This is what a bunch of coaches said at a panel I was on about what they want on a soccer video. They want a title page. They want like a PowerPoint or a Google slide on there that says all your information with a nice picture of you kind of up close so they know what you look like. Because sometimes your video is so far away, we can't see who you are and we won't recognize you. So they want that. You could put references on a final page or references on another page. They obviously love high video if you can. So high school games are really great for taking video because it's always like in the football stadium and somebody can get up high and shoot that. They only want it 3 to 5 minutes long. Do not give them a 10-minute video. They don't have time for that, okay? They want it best to worst. So you show your best highlights first, right? That and if you're a forward, that's scoring goals and getting assists. If you're a back, it's making brutal tackles and great headers to goal on corner kicks, okay? So it depends on your position, what best to worst is, but best to worst, and then just replace the worst with the best as you update your highlight film after games, okay? My a former player of mine is now the head coach at UC Davis, and she said, if you don't impress me in 30 seconds, it will be deleted. So make sure your first 30 seconds of this highlight film are very good. They don't want to see juggling anymore. COVID, a lot of people sent juggling film because we couldn't have to send anything else. They don't want to see juggling. They assume you can juggle, okay? Keeper training videos are important. If you are a goalkeeper, they want to see a different video. They like to see training videos of your goalkeeper coach doing a training session with you in all the different areas of shot blocking, okay? But they don't want to see that with field players. And then these coaches said, hey, I don't want to see you just scoring goals. If you're a forward in that first minute, you better show some defending, okay? Because you are going to be required to defend in college. That was my biggest pet peeve about being a college coach, is getting these amazing forwards who had no idea how to defend as a group, okay? So show that, please show that. And then the last thing is just kind of funny, pick a good song, really. I think the three of us here, if we put our favorite songs out, they would probably be very different. So all I can say on song, well, maybe we all like Eye of the Tiger the best, I don't know. But pick a song that is appropriate. It is not inappropriate or have inappropriate words, and not something to just getting on people's nerves, okay? So it's only 3 to 5 minutes. Feel free to put in crowd noise if it's appropriate, okay? So I filmed some high school games and I was coaching through the whole filming session. My noise was bad noise on the video. So if it's bad noise, just blot it out and put a song on there. Obviously, the video became a bigger piece of the process in 2020 with COVID, and it's not going away. Okay, so make sure your videos are good. You do not have to hire somebody to do this. Look at your own game feel. That is going to be so great to watch yourself play, watch your teammates play. You will learn a lot. Okay, and watch the women play, watch the women's national team play, watch the EPL, watch all these different things, watch the Champions League. It will make you a better player. Put this together yourself. You can post them on YouTube. You can use iMovie. You can use Clip Grab, which is free, and you can put this together. And if you can't, because you're really lame and non-techie like myself, get your best friend to do it, because I'm sure they can put it together. Okay. This you can do on your own, and it's a good process to take yourself through. Okay. So you've got your video, you've got your cover email letter, you've got your profile, you've got all these things, you've got your list of 20 to 40 schools, okay? Now what? You sent your email, okay? It's not over. That's just the beginning, okay? That's why this process is so hard, and you have to really be prepared for it. You need to track the coach's responses and non-responses. Some coaches will not respond to you, and you need to know which ones those are, especially if it's your favorite school, and you need to figure out another way to get in on that coach, okay? You need to fill out recruiting questionnaires online. Okay, you need to go online to the athlete, to the website, and fill out their recruiting questionnaire so that you start getting spam from the program about their ID camps. And you'll get spam about events that are going on. You're going to get tons of emails back. They may not be personal, but it's going to help you figure out if you like this program and how to get to one of their ID camps. Stay in contact with coaches. Keep thinking of excuses to write them. Congratulate them on wins. Let them know that you had one. Send them your high school schedule. Maybe they'll be able to get out to a game because it's high school. Okay. Send them tournament updates early. Like I said, not late. Visit campuses and attend games. We're in the fall. There's 3 weeks left in this season until playoffs. Go out and visit games to see where you stand in these colleges. Could you play for these colleges? Are you as good as they are? Or do you need to look at a different level? Okay. ID camps, research, all of that. The bottom line is be your own agent. Okay. You are driving this process and coaches are going to appreciate that. I can tell you right now, through this process, especially right around junior year, I would start to get to know these girls at Cal and I would start to get an idea of if they were the Cal type of gal that I wanted. And if they would fit in with the team and if they would fit in with our style of play and coaching. And it's because they were taking care of this process and I was talking to them on the phone all the time. So really be your own agent. And parents, learn from the parents who have already been through the process. Talk to them on the sidelines. That's what I did. Talk to them, talk to them, talk to them. Okay, here's a sample tracking template that you can put together. So you could do, I really like the Google instead of the Excel. So whatever, Google Sheets are fantastic because they're really easy. All the schools, you can see this guy, he has some D1 schools and some D3 schools. As we went through his tracking template, more of the D3 schools were responding than the D1 schools. So we started adding more D3, figuring out that's kind of where his sweet spot was going to be. He has all the coaches there, so he can just email coaches directly from this sheet, the date he sent emails and the date emails were received or not received, when he filled out the questionnaire, and further down, which I couldn't capture on the screenshot, was when the ID camps were. So you can track all of this yourself, okay? And really figure out who you're showing love to and who is actually showing love back, okay? If you go visit a campus or you take a virtual tour, write that down. So any part of the research, some players I work with will like rank colleges 1 through 10, their favorites being 1 and least being 10, so they can have an idea of it. But this tracking template is a great way to help you organize. Okay. Tragically, everything we've been through in the last couple of years with COVID has changed the process, okay? It is going to make it harder on you guys for the next few years. And there's a couple reasons why. I'm gonna start off with testing, and these are NCAA rules changes. For the 2021s and 2022s who have just gone through the process, and the gals that we saw on the slide that they all committed, they no longer are requiring the SAT or the ACT testing for eligibility at the NCAA. Okay, so they got a free pass, not a free pass. It's terrible having to go through COVID and trying to get seen by these coaches, but a free pass as far as testing goes. For juniors this year, they have not decided, and they will vote in February if they will require an SAT or an ACT. Now, a lot of colleges, 85% of colleges have gotten rid of the SAT, ACT, but we don't know if that's going to stick. So my advice to athletes is take it. Just take it, okay? Because you may need it and you may not, which is terrible, but you may. And so until we know, I have to advise and say take it. Rule 2, this is the worst one. Rule 2 has, the NCAA has given everybody who played in the COVID season, which I call spring of last year, the COVID season, because you guys all played like high school and club at the same time, which was chaotic. And the colleges played a very short season during that spring. Now, some of the colleges played in the fall. Many colleges on the West Coast did not, and they just played that short spring season. So the NCAA decided that if you played less than 50% of your normal schedule, that you would be given 1 extra year of eligibility. So for example, my son started in last year as a freshman. He played that tiny spring season, which was only 10 games, but that didn't count against him. So this year he's an academic sophomore at school, but he's actually a freshman who has 4 more years to play soccer. So what this has done is that it has made, that's why I told you Cal women's soccer has 38 on their roster, because they brought in 12 freshmen that were already committed, or 14 freshmen who were already committed before COVID. And the seniors didn't leave because they didn't want to have their last season be that lame spring season. So they stayed. So rosters have grown and coaches are recruiting fewer numbers for each class until they know if their seniors are going to leave each year, until we catch up. So for a few years, this is going to be harder, which is why I'm advising bigger, more open, broader lists. Okay. So put
Thank you.
lots of colleges on there.
Can
So
I ask you
Yes.
a question on that?
Yes.
So let's talk about obviously the extra year of those players.
Mhm.
Obviously now most of the schools are going through a full fall season now that it's
Mhm.
coming to an end here pretty soon between November, December. Well, do you feel that at that time when the fall season is over, do you feel the seniors at that moment will potentially come back for another year? I mean, how's that work? So they will.
No, it's a great question, Z.
Right.
Like I was just at the Cal women's soccer senior day in the torrential downpour yesterday. 10 seniors went out to get flowers with their parents. I think only 5 of them are going to leave.
Wow.
And they wanted to be out there because it was all their class, but 5 are moving on and not playing, and 5 are going to stay for the next fall for their like COVID season.
Right. So they'll be eligible for another fall season.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
eligible for another fall. And the problem is that coaches don't even really know who's leaving and who's not, you know.
Right.
I ask on the other side, and it's hard to know. They're at a point where, you know, they may try to get into a master's program and finish their degree, or they may go finish their 5th year somewhere else because they still have a season of eligibility. A couple girls have gone off and gone to get master's programs at different schools. So it's kind of chaotic, and the coaches are having a hard time understanding who's going to stay and who's going to go.
So do you think then that by the end of fall, by the end of their college season, they will have a much better picture of what their numbers will look like to open up obviously room for the 22s?
I think they'll have a better idea, but I don't think they have 100%
Got it.
because they keep changing their mind, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, so they know more, but they're not totally sure. So
Got
they're
it.
being very cautious in bringing in fewer numbers for each class for the next few years, because I mean, even the freshmen get their extra year. So
Yeah.
until like this class of freshmen gets done, then it will start being normal again, 100%. It'll
Got
get better and better each year. But yeah, this has really thrown everybody for a loop,
Right.
not just the recruits, but the coaches too. It's been hard. And the poor seniors, you know, who
Yeah.
they want a real last season, and, you know, they want to try for, you know, a professional career. So it's been hard. It's been really hard.
Okay.
So the point is, add more schools to your list because of this. Okay. So that's it. And then finally, the NCAA suspended all recruiting for Division I until May 31st of last year. So the recruiting all really went crazy this summer. They were out recruiting every day for Division I. But because of the change, a lot of recruiting went online. So filling out these questionnaires, having a strong social media presence, liking and following colleges, having video constantly being updated, you know, all these things. Like a coach, I was on an online presentation with coaches, and the coach said, you know, what have these kids been doing during COVID? These poor kids don't get to play. So when I talk to them on a Zoom or a phone call, if they don't know everything about my program, what have they been doing with their time? They should have been watching games and researching my roster and all that. And I was like, oh, okay. So this is something that's not going to change, you know, like I'm not meeting with all of you guys in person right now. We're doing this, all of us, through Zoom now. So, and that's the same way with the recruiting. A lot of it is happening online. So use it for good, not evil. Okay. Here's the money shot. Take your camera, take a picture if you want it right now, because they are going to post this online so you can see it in a couple days. But everything I just said is in order on this list, or kind of in order. Okay. So if you're the person that just likes one shot of something, this is what you want to do. As you can see at the bottom, I'm giving you time to get out your phones and take a picture. The timelines for all the divisions and the conferences vary based on gender, division, conference, college, coach. Some recruit really early, some recruit really late. The top athletes are going to verbally commit earlier, okay, to the top conferences, and women's sports tend to commit earlier than men's sports, okay? But a lot of athletes don't commit till their senior year in the lower levels. So just know the timelines vary. I get that question all the time, and it's hard to answer because you got to know where the kid is thinking of playing. Okay, so blue chip or white chip? The one on the left is me in the 1980s. I had a little injury, hip pointer. I was a thug. Remember, my position no longer exists. We did not wear shin guards because they didn't force us to. Some people had blue eyeshadow. It was the 80s. It was a very crazy time. I was definitely a white chip. I hand wrote a letter to the athletic director. Remember, no laptops at that time, saying, I want to play sports in college. And she wrote me back saying, which sport? Well, I was a 3-sport athlete. I was like, basketball and soccer. I don't know, that's how it was back then. It's not like that anymore. Okay. The person on the right, I had the honor to find and coach in college. Alex Morgan was a white chip. Okay. So believe it or not, this crazy, amazing young woman, I found her, and Zach is going to like this, in Idaho, Moscow, Idaho, at ODP camp. And she was out on a field playing with Michelle Myers, who was formerly the coach at LMU. And she was also the Cal South ODP coach. Now, I know ODP doesn't get kind of as much recruits out of it as it used to, but it was a primary place for us to recruit back in the day. And I was the only coach, the only college coach at the game at 8 in when Cal South played Oregon. And I was there to watch this girl, number 11, who was supposed to play up top against, on the team. And they were in a 4-4-2. And there was the unicorn. Number 13, seriously, a horn on her head. I think she scored 3 goals that day. One was a header. She got up so high, like not even the goalkeeper's hands could reach the ball. It was incredible. And her speed was unreal. And she was nowhere on anywhere of my papers. She hadn't written me, nothing. And I was calling Kevin and calling the head coach, like, I found her. I found the person that's going to change our program. We got to get her. We got to get her. And nobody had talked to this girl. She didn't start playing sports competitively until she was 14. She played softball. She ran track. She played soccer. She was a 3-sport athlete, and nothing until she started playing competitive soccer at 14. So we got her within about 3 months. She was committed to us, and then everything else happened. The best story, I just have to give you one more story. She came into my office freshman year, and she's like, Jade, we got to go talk to the academic counselor. And I was like, why? And she's like, well, I need to graduate early. And I was like, what? Like, college is the best 4 years of your life. And it's really hard at Cal to graduate early because it's a hard school. And she's like, no, take me to the counselor. And so we sat in there, and the counselor's like, okay, Alex, we can work this out. Don't worry. Why do you want to graduate early? She's like, because I want to play in the World Cup, and I'm going to need that spring of my senior year to get ready for it. And I was like, oh my God, this is what this kid's goals are? Like, okay. And she played in that World Cup game. I think they got a silver. In that Olympic game, she got a silver in Germany, and she did all this. So talk to your coaches, like, let them know your goals, because that was incredible to watch happen. But we're both white chips, which I love to remind Alex of when I talk to her. Okay, there's a bunch of resources. Obviously, the ones on top are all related to athletics. The ones on bottom are just great sites for you to search about colleges, the academics, the selectivity, the urban, rural, all of that stuff. You can take virtual tours, but definitely take a look at the resources, because you are going to need to research these schools, because they're not all going to be right for you. Okay, and then the final I have, sorry, that one's so blurry, is it's not always the best players that will go off and play college sports. And especially in Division III, sometimes it's the ones that just work hardest at this process. So that's what I learned working with my boys from U6 all the way to U19, that some of the guys that are playing D3 were just my hardest workers, and they worked off the field and on the field hard. And they're the ones that are playing right now. And they're the ones I'm going to see their games in Boston and in New York and in Missouri and all over the country. So know that you have to work hard at both sides of this process to be successful. And you can do this, and you can do it on your own. So that is my plug for you guys. I would love to answer some questions if you have some questions. So I'm going to turn it over to you guys and see if there's any questions in that chat.
Matt, do you want to take that question there? I mean, that was an early question, but if anybody else wanted to start putting in, if anybody else has questions.
I was waiting for my crying 3-year-old to leave after I told him he can't have fruit snacks at 7 p.m. when it's bedtime.
Oh, you're mean.
I know that I'm a bad dad.
Yeah.
Hey, one of the questions, and I'll be a little bit more general, but it was about just the overall transition of Division I soccer players, specifically on the men's side, but I think it's probably applicable on the women's side, into the pros, right? Like, do you have a guesstimate percentage-wise how often that's happening, or what that looks like? Because I know on the men's side, I'll extrapolate on the men's side, you're seeing less players playing college that end up directly in the MLS than we did 15 years ago.
Yeah.
And on the women's side, obviously, the professional leagues across the world are growing. So, any thoughts there?
I think, well, on the women's side, there's only a few players. There's like, you can hold them in one hand that have foregone college to go just the pathway to pro. And we know those players, and the data is coming out about how they're doing. They seem to be doing well, like to miss the college game. A lot of women right now, when they leave college, are going off and playing in Europe. That has become so popular. A lot of my former players are in Europe in those leagues playing. And, and some of the tops are obviously here too. On the men's side, a lot are foregoing college, but again, that's less than the 2%. Like I was talking about the 2% and the 98%, it's less than the 2%, even that those kids are getting plucked out, then going straight into MLS or into leagues in Europe. And it's just a different process, but on the boys' side, it's definitely happening more than on the girls' side. So it's a thing. I obviously am a huge fan of getting the college education, because at some point your legs are going to give out. I mean, I'm sure, Matt and Zeka, they're still strong players, but my ankle's given out a few times. And you need to have something else to do.
So there's a couple more questions that have come in. This one, actually, I wrote down the notes because I know I had a feeling it got lost in context. You had mentioned that I think at Cal, they have 7 full ride scholarships. The full allotment, the most any men's program could have is 9.9.
Yes.
Just for clarification. And on the women, it's 14.4.
Mm-hmm.
I know you referenced the Division II level. Being a D2 guy, for me, I know how much money I didn't get when I was playing.
Yeah.
What does that look like? Because I know what they can, but I mean, let's just take California, for example, in the CCAA. How much money is there actually out there in that conference? I think it's maybe something people don't know.
In which conference did you want to talk about?
Let's just go CCAA, Sonoma, Chico, SF State.
Right.
Do you know what in general?
Yeah. So D2, like I said, the men can have at division. I just need to go back to Division I and clarify it, 9.9 scholarships, but Cal only gives their men 7, right? So the school, even though the cap is determined by the NCAA, the college might not give you your full number of scholarships because of Title IX issues or whatever, equity issues within their department. So that's why that's happening. On the Division II level, okay, so they can have 9 scholarships on the men's side and 9.9 on the women. But keep in mind, these scholarships, it's like a pot of money. They take the 9.9 scholarships and whatever the college costs, let's say at D2, the college is costing $27,000 a year, right? That's one full ride. So it's $27,000 a year times 9 scholarships. They take that pot of money and divide it up amongst players. So some players will get 0. A couple might get a full ride, and a lot will get a divided up scholarship. So they might get a $1,000 book scholarship, or they might get tuition, or they might get tuition and books, or they might just get room and board. But they'll divide that money up amongst their entire group to try to get the best amount of players that they can in for them. And it's not easy. That is not easy being a coach. And oftentimes players have no idea what each other gets in scholarship money. They just don't talk about it.
And don't you think now, and obviously during the COVID years, the issue that I'm hearing a lot about now is the 5th-year option, right? So the money's still going to be tied up to those players in so many ways. So a lot of college coaches that we've been talking to, they're basically saying year 1 and 2, I have zero money, right? But then year 2, 3, and 4, I can get you some scholarships. So,
or I
I'm
might
getting a lot of
be
that.
able to, right?
Right.
Depending on how you play, you know, like I might be able to get you some money on those years.
Right.
So it's risky. And a lot of coaches will say, yes, come in and play your way into scholarship money, especially now, because that senior who wants to stay for their 5th year, if she's really good, right, they're going to want to give her that scholarship money to be able to keep her there, right? And not have her go somewhere else to get a master's program or get some money that way, right? So they're going to keep that scholarship, and they've already made promises to these other people underneath. So that's where the coaches, you're exactly right, are struggling, because their money doesn't grow.
Right.
So it's a good segue there, because I don't know that we touched on it in the first webinar or nor in this one. Can you talk a little bit on the transfer portal and how that potentially impacts 5th-year players coming, sticking around or moving around, and maybe the recruiting process?
Can I also talk about the international thing?
Yeah, that's one of the questions. Yeah.
So
100%.
2 other issues have come up, right? The transfer portal is excellent. Now I'm just going to say it's way better for players. It's player centered. 2018, the NCAA came up with a transfer portal. And what this means is if you want to transfer as an athlete at a college, you're not happy for whatever reason, you can put your name into that portal. And then all the coaches in the country know that you're in there. Now, you should tell your coach you're going in there, because otherwise they're going to get angry if they see you there. And this will allow you to have conversations to move on somewhere. Now, remember, transferring once is fine. People will be like, yeah, they didn't like their setup. They didn't like their school. They chose when they were a sophomore. They didn't know what they were getting into. Fine. Transferring twice is really challenging. Okay. But what this has done is now coaches are going into that transfer portal and they're recruiting older players. Instead of developing you for those 2 years, freshman and sophomore year, where you're not going to get as much playing time, maybe, they're pulling these juniors into their program who are already seasoned veterans of the college game. So it's making it even harder for the 12th grader, the 11th grader to get an offer from a school. The second issue that's making it harder, especially on the men's side, 38% of Division I men are internationals now. 38. I can't tell you, I've been watching a ton of Division I men's games now, and I look through that roster, and Oregon State and UCSB and St. Mary's, like all these schools have foreigners, a lot of foreigners on their team, which is making it harder on the guys' side to get recruited, because now you're competing against everyone internationally. Okay. So really add that to your roster research and see how many people are internationals on the roster that you're on. The women's side, it's only about 13%. So we haven't creeped up as much yet.
Got it. I had a question, because I think that it's coming up more often now than ever. It's the college ID camps, right? So what's your take on, for me, there's 2 different types of camps, right? The ones that you get multiple college coaches in there, right? That you see a lot often nowadays. And then you have the ones that are specific on the school.
Yeah.
Our philosophy here, it's always been, if that's your number 1 school and that's the only way they're going to get to see you, we recommend those families obviously to go attend and make a connection with the college or the coach, right? Yeah. So what's your take on the college ID camps, especially now with the whole year without being college coaches, without being able to recruit?
Yeah. I mean, you have to get exposure somehow, right? So obviously tournaments, showcases, all that stuff, winning championships, that's going to get you exposure, but you need to show them love by getting to their ID camps, which is hard because they cost a lot of money. And I feel like there's even a third type of ID camp. There's the one ID camp that's at the school and it's only the school. You're going to Sacramento State and they're hosting their ID camp and there's no other college coaches there. Then there's the big third party ID camp that have 50 college coaches coming and 500, players at it. And it's just mayhem and chaos and really hard to get seen. I only recommend those for if you want to do like a practice ID camp to see how you play at them. Cause nobody's going to pass you the ball. You have to figure out how to get seen. Or if that's the only way a coach could see you, like they are coming to that ID camp and they have promised you that they will watch you. And that's the only way you can get seen. So you already have an inside connection. The third bucket of ID camps, which I actually really like, and I found doing this with my players, are the ones that have like maybe 8 coaches at, right? Like I can give a good example because this was UW and UC San Diego had these like midway camps where there were like 8 to 10 coaches at them. And they were D1, D2, D3, and they were all different coaches. Like at the UW camp, it was like Claremont McKenna, UC Santa Cruz, University of Washington, Western Washington, Seattle Pacific. Like he brought in like all his friend coaches. And it was great because you got seen by a variety of different groups, So I like the kind of medium-sized one too. There are these camps, if you're a really intense student, that are called soccer masters right now that are like very selective colleges like Harvard and Johns Hopkins and these hard schools to get into. They're doing those kind of medium range camps together too now. So yeah, you need to go. If it like Z said, if it's your top choice, you need to get in front of them that way. And don't just go, write them a letter or an email or text them or call them saying you're coming, get to the camp, introduce yourself, make some eye contact with them. And at the end of the camp on that Monday, write them an email saying something specific you liked about their camp. Great possession session you ran. I learned so much about spacing and checking my shoulder. Okay. Or I really liked your relationship with the players that you have. You seem like you guys have a fun time. It makes sense why your team's so good. Write them something specific to thank them for the camp that will make you stand out and from the heart.
Yep. Matt,
there's 2 more that came through. This one I think is actually a really good one because I think I'll be interested to hear what your thought is.
You're going to stump me. That's what you're saying.
No, I think it's a little bit subjective, but I'll be interested because you've been on the other side. You've actually probably been on all sides of this, so I'll be interested to see what you think. At what point in the discussion is it okay to approach the subject of scholarship money? And should this be player to coach or should the parents be involved?
So I have a lot to say about that. That's a great question, actually. It's okay once they have shown a lot of love to you, it's okay to start asking about scholarship money. Now, that could happen I'm not going to say what year that is. It's just once they start showing interest in you, you're texting them, you're calling them, you're having conversations. They've talked to your coach. Like, yes, you should start talking about scholarship money. It would be great if that happens in your senior year and you're comfortable. It would be great for you to do it on your own. If you are, June 15th at your sophomore year and this is happening to you, you need your parents to get involved. And even if you're a senior, you need your parents to get involved. Once money is on the table, it is a family decision. Okay. You need to decide as a family unit if this is affordable for you and if it's a right fit for you. While I would love the player to start the conversation, even as a college coach, I like to get the parents involved at that point for sure. Okay. Because it's a family decision as it was for me and my child,
Yep.
Last one.
All right. Final one. If you've already attended one of the ID camps at a university and they've communicated positively with you after the camp, should you still plan to attend another camp for the same college if you're getting spammed with their camp emails, which we all get?
We all do. I would say if they liked the way you play and if they are going to see you again at some tournament or showcase or game or whatever, you don't have to. But you should ask them. If you start to have a relationship with them, you should ask them and find out when they're going to see you again. And if they're not going to see you at any other thing, yes, go back to their camp, right? This is only if you have a relationship with them. And at that point, if you do, you can start asking honest questions about, okay, how much more do you need to see me? What did you see? What's your timeline for committing players in my class? Have you already committed players? Are you looking for nines? Those types of specific questions are really good to ask to determine how much more you need to get in front of the coach. And during COVID, they were just saying, I need to see you play, which was brutal. Of course they need to see you play, but we couldn't play. So it was hard. It was a hard situation.
Totally. All right, final question, and then we'll shut it down because we're over your time already. So thank you for being so generous with it. When should you start going to ID camps? Is it worth going as a freshman? And I would add, is it different for the female versus the male athlete?
Totally. Girls have to start earlier. Like you just have to, because the recruiting starts earlier and the committing is earlier. A lot of players on the men's side, which is something I didn't know until I started working with boys, like my son grew 4 inches his sophomore year and then another 2 his junior year. So if anyone looked at him as a freshman, he was just a little gangly guy, that didn't really know what was going on. And there was huge growth. And because on the women's side or the girls' side, we tend to grow earlier. So you're seeing more about what you can get and the process starts earlier. Okay. Fortunately, a lot of the girls are really on it. So they can start writing all these emails earlier too. So yeah, I would say we did freshman year. I had my son do an ID camp that was a who cares about it ID camp. It was friends were running it. I sent him out there. I didn't have him send any emails or anything, just to see what it was like. And then the summer after his sophomore year, he attended a bunch. We kind of drove around in our van and dumped him off at different colleges we hoped he would play for. So yeah, that was our whole year. Our whole summer was spent doing that. So that's what I would recommend. Do a practice one or have your coaches walk you through how it's going to feel out there and what you should do. And then really hit it hard for the boys, summer after sophomore year and into junior year. And the girls, you can start just a little bit earlier, end of sophomore year.
Awesome.
Awesome.
So let me first say thank you, JT. This is fantastic. Zach and I were getting text messages sidebar from people thanking us and just saying how lovely you were and how they appreciated your candor. So
I know her.
Yeah. So yeah, well, listen, hey, we can all hide behind screens, but it was great. It was engaging, and I appreciate that piece. I will. So for our own people, I actually took the screenshot of the screen that JT said, take that screenshot. So I will actually post it into the BIGA library for you that can't figure out how to take screenshots. And I will also upload this video. It should be up there some point tonight. So I won't send you 15 different reminders. It will be there. It will live there in perpetuity. So go find it, go watch it. And it'll also end up on our YouTube, but we'll have it hidden. So it's not out there for people who aren't part of our club. So
awesome.
Hey, JT, it's been a pleasure for me. We got to do this one more time. So I'm going to extend to bring you over here in the spring when we're coming back from high school to do another session live. I think our kids and parents will love to have you and see your face a little closer. So
yeah, I would love to do a workshop for them. I like doing the hands-on. I'm a classroom teacher, so I like making people work while I'm standing.
So we're in the high school, obviously off into beginning of March. So let's go ahead and put on the calendar beginning of March to bring you back in. By then, obviously, you're going to have more information to share with us. So let's go ahead and put that on the schedule. Love to have you over. So
thank you, guys. It was a pleasure. Thank you for staying on too and making me feel like I was actually talking to somebody. It's always hard when you're in your office.
Awesome.
All right, JT. Thank you.
See you
Thank
all
you, guys.
on the field
We'll talk soon.
Thank you. All right. Bye.
Bye, guys.